Shweta Gavkar, agriculture graduate, presently working as a technical administration in charge in Nanus Farm, Kewana, Sangam, Goa. Has everyone knows that Botanical Society of Goa, in association with Agricos Alumni Association Goa, is conducting free online webinars on every Sunday from past 9 months on different topics of agriculture. So, today's topic is on monsoon flowers, irrigation methods, and seed treatment. First, I would like to welcome session moderator Mr. Miguel Braganza sir, who is agricultural consultant and visiting professor of urban gardening at Dante College of Arts and Science, Panjim. Also, I would like to welcome speakers for the today's webinar, Ms. Shwetakshi Mishra, Ms. Pooja Padte, and Ms. Lisa Pinero. So, our first speaker, Ms. Shwetakshi Mishra, is currently pursuing her degree in BSc Biotechnology from Dante College of Arts and Science, Goa University. She is a meritorious student and actively participates in various national and international events. She has received many honors and prizes in competitions like IITM Pune National Essay Competition, International Astronomy and Astrophysics Competition, International Yacht Math Challenge, Power Grid Painting Contest, etc. She has represented Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan and Goa State in the International Science Festival, National Children's Science Congress, Jawaharlal Nehru National Science Exhibition, and Inspire Award. She is also a shot put player and won gold medal in the Mumbai Athletics Meet 2018. Presently, she is a writer in the current Science Journal and published about 30 science articles, reports, and papers in reputed journals, magazines, and newsletters. Now, she is going to cover on the topic garden flowers in monsoon.
Thank you, Shweta. Just let me present the screen. I hope that the slides are visible.
Yes, dear.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. A very warm good evening to the August gathering present here. Myself, Shwetakshi Mishra, and the topic for today's discussion is garden flowers in monsoon. So, in this session, we shall be discussing about the relation of monsoon and flowers. We'll have a look at different flower varieties which can be grown during monsoon. We'll also have a look at why are flowers necessary in a garden and some of the flower related institutes. To begin with, let's begin with monsoon and flower relation. We know that the water cycle, which is a natural phenomena in which water evaporates and condenses and form clouds and finally precipitates. Now, the duration in which the precipitation occurs is the monsoon season, and in India, it lasts between June to September. Now, monsoon is very important because all the greenery which forms is in this season. And this is the relation of monsoon and the plants. Now, why does this happen? Because the water splashes all over and all the seeds which were inactivated have got suitable conditions to grow and germinate. And also all those plants which have become inactivated got water, so they become again good for growth. Now, also due to the humidity in the air, these plants can grow very well. But like the nature, we cannot just grow a lot of plants here and there in a garden. It has to be arranged. And if we are going to use flower varieties in a garden, it will look very beautiful. So here we are going to discuss some of the flower varieties which can be grown in a garden during monsoon. The first one is hibiscus. Hibiscus is also called China rose or shoe flower. Now, these flowers blossom throughout the year, but the best time to sow the seeds and allow them to grow is monsoon season. Now, these plants, as we know, they are bushy-like structures having a height of about 2.5 to 5 meters, and usually the flower blossoming occurs after 45 days of sowing the seeds. The hibiscus is a large, huge set of species. Like there are almost 670 known species, depending upon the color, texture, and appearance of the flowers and the other plant parts. So here you can see there are red hibiscus, yellow, orange, blue, purple, and even there are variety or a combination of different colors. For example, there are 2 colors over here. There are even 4 to 5 colors being mixed together. The best thing which we can do in a garden with hibiscus flowers is to graft them all together, so that if we could graft 2 to 3 flowers together, we see that in a plant we get 2 to 3 different colors of hibiscus. So you can imagine how beautiful it would look. So here are some of the varieties of hibiscus which can be grown. The most common one being the Rosa sinensis. So this is commonly found everywhere. Also there is basalt hibiscus, there is hibiscus mutabilis, which is called cotton rose. And there are many other varieties like black dragon hibiscus is there. There is cheesecake hibiscus. This is called because of the color and the texture, how it looks. So it is named after it. Then there is Hawaiian hibiscus. There is hibiscus subdifera. So this is quite different in look as compared to the other hibiscus. Also there are hibiscus cocagonus, hibiscus cannabinus, which is a wild variety. There is Luna red hibiscus and bluebird hibiscus as well. So there are different varieties of hibiscus which can be grown. Next we move on to another type of or another plant variety which can be grown, that is cleome, commonly called spider flower. So these are quite tall and have well scented flowers. Now, the best time to sow their seeds is the rainy season, and they come in different attractive colors like pink, orange, or yellow, purple. And similar to the hibiscus plant, it requires almost 45 days to blossom. The plant height may range from 1.5 to 5 feet depending upon the variety. Now here you can see some of the common species of cleome, that is Cleome viscosa, there is Cleome bonifila, then there are Augustifolia and Cleone arabica, which looks very beautiful. Next, move on to one special variety, which is lotus. Now lotus, as we know, it is the national flower of our country, and it does not grow only on the soil but rather requires muddy water for its growth. So we can easily grow it in our home gardens as well. Now we need to follow some of the procedures for it. First of all, we have to take the lotus seeds. Then from one end, we have to cut it slight and then submerge them in water to allow it to germinate. After 15 to 20 days, we can observe that the long plumule or elongated plumule has been emerged. Now this has to be placed in mud water. So we can use any tray which has a broader end on the top and leave it for around 30 to 45 days. Now this is quite time consuming, but it gives very good results. Then you can see that the leaves will start appearing, and almost in 2 to 3 months, depending on the variety, the lotus flower can be formed. Now once this is formed, this can be of multicolors. It can be of white, pink, red, and even rare varieties like blue and purple. And this looks very beautiful in a garden. So here are some lotus varieties. There is Nilambo lutea, there is Vietnamese lotus, there is royal lotus. You can see this is very beautiful. There is Momo botan. Also there are roseum varieties and tulip varieties of lotuses. The next one is zinnia. So unlike other plants, the size is quite small. It is almost 6 to 12 inches long. But this grows very well in rainy season and is one of the very beautiful flower we can grow in. It also comes in wide array of colors, and here are some of the examples for it. Like we have the giant violet queen, there is Zinnia augustifolia, there is Zinnia elegans, then Zinnia pinca. As you can see, it looks very different from all other of them, but they come under the same Zinnia. Then there are Zinnia hybrids which are formed. So combining 2 to 3 species together, or maybe combining different colors of flowers together, forms this. Zinnia profusion is one, then Zinnia volacea is another one. So this can be also grown. Next, we move on to moss roses. So moss roses are creep sort of plants which help in covering the entire garden from ground. Now these are very beautiful because of their green velvet leaves, and there are even studies that some of the varieties of moss roses help to increase eyesight. So if we have a lane in which we allow to grow them and walk around it, there are some studies which suggest that it will increase the eyesight as well. So a lot of research is being going on this. Also, there are about 100 varieties of this, and on the basis of the appearance of the flowers, we can classify them as sun dances or common purslane, which is quite commonly seen. There are moss roses. Also, there's Cooper purple. There's cupcake carrot. So it looks like a cupcake of carrot, hence it is named after it. There are varieties in grandiflora. Also, this one is very beautiful flower because it has one layer of petal with yellow followed by a pop-up of pink color. So it looks like a fairy tale Cinderella. This is named after this. And there is mango mojito as well. Next, move on to another flower variety, that is balsam. Now, balsam are double-petaled flowers, and they come in a wide array of colors, like this is red, pink, orange, white, or many others. Now, it requires almost 45 days for this plant to grow up after the sowing of seeds, and the plant height would range between 22 to 60 centimeters. The best part of this plant, which makes it very beautiful, is the spiral arrangements of the flowers and of the leaves, which gives it a unique beauty. So here you can see the different colors, and even their flowers differ widely in their structures. There can be even combinations of colors like this. Next, we move on to most common, that is marigolds. Now, marigolds are one of the easiest flowers which can be grown during monsoons. Even there are areas in which marigold flowers grow on its own even without sowing seeds, because they may be spread somewhere and which allows them to germinate automatically. However, in a garden, if we sow the seeds during the monsoon season, it's very easy to grow them. Now, the marigolds usually have shades ranging from red to yellow in color and sometimes white, but we can also find marigolds in a combination of pink or purple or such shades. Now, it requires almost 2 months for marigold to blossom after the sowing season. And there are two main varieties of marigolds. One is the African marigolds and one is the French marigolds. Now, African marigolds are those which are having compact arrangement of the petals, whereas French marigolds have loosely connected petals. Now, our ICR has designed some of the varieties of marigolds. The varieties in the African marigold include the Pusa Narangi Gandha. Gandha is the marigold, so it is appearing like a giant orange. There is also Pusa Basanti Gandha, which is a giant lemon, and also there is a crackjack variety. When we talk about the varieties of French marigold, there is Gypsy, there is Lemon Drop, and a Pride of India, which is a bright red color marigold. So here we can observe a wide array of marigold colors, starting from red to dark orange, light orange, dark yellow, lemon yellow, and a combination of these. Then there are even white marigolds, and we can also make pink marigolds, dark pink, light pink, purple, dark blue, light blue, and even green colored marigolds can be created. So there is a wide array, and it looks very beautiful in a garden. Next, we move on to another one, which is salvia. So salvia are beautiful flowers, but apart from their aesthetic value, they can be also used in making herbal teas, as it is used as herbs. There are almost 1,000 varieties of salvia across the globe, out of which 700 are known, and almost 90 species are found in the Southeastern Asia. Now, this list is about all the salvia species which are found in India and our neighboring countries. Mostly all are native to China. And of course, these salvia also comes in a different color variety. But it is not that if it is not native, it can't be grown. Proper care and attention we can grow salvia as well. So some of the examples include the purple sage, tricolor sage, golden sage, and also there is scarlet sage. So this is like a very beautiful fire-like color of this salvia variety. There is also white sage, pineapple sage, and many others. So next we will move on to another variety, which is Cosmos. So Cosmos flowers are cup shaped, which resembles very similar to the daisy flowers. Now the height of these plants depend upon the variety, ranges between 15 to 120 centimeters, and the petal number ranges between 5 to 8. It has fern-like appearance. So in these flowers there are tiny whiskers, which gives it a unique beauty. And also, when we sow them, the time taken for it to blossom right from the sowing seeds is almost 2 months. There are two main varieties. There is Bedins sulphurea and Cosseus sulphuriae. So these both varieties can be used, most commonly used for growing. Next, we'll move on to Cape jasmines. So Cape jasmines, they include a variety of jasmine flowers, which can be grown in between the mid-spring to summer and in monsoon. These flowers have waxy texture, and they usually come in bright white color, but their shade can vary from white to creamish in color. Now, they can be either single petaled or they can be double petaled as well. They are very beautiful, and also they have a great aroma. So usually during late night and early morning, the aroma is very well, which can be spread all over, and it gives a very nice and good feeling. Let's move on to next, that is Plumeria, commonly called champa. So these are throughout blossoming plants, but they even blossom in summer, monsoon, and in autumn. Mostly they are whitish in color, but we have pink as well. They also have strong fragrance, and there are 11 known species. The common one which we can find here are the Plumeria obtusa, which is a common champa we often see. Then there is Plumeria rubra, which is a pink colored one. There is Plumeria stenophylla, is Plumeria pudica, and Plumeria stenopetala. So this is because of the small size petals or long elongated petals it has. So these are some of the varieties which can be grown. Next, we move on to another one, which is monsoon cassia. Now, monsoon cassia is not like other varieties we have discussed so far. These are very big trees, which requires a big garden for growing them. And when they are big enough, what happens is during the monsoon season, the leaves shed off, most of the leaves, and the only color which is observable is the yellow color, which is very attractive. Now, the arrangement of these flowers are in a pinwheel manner, which looks very, very beautiful during the monsoon season. Next one are glory vines. Now, glory vines include a lot of vine sort of species, including the morning glory. There are Ipomea species as well. Now, they require partial shade to partial sunlight, but they cannot tolerate a very harsh sunlight as such, but they remain evergreen throughout. Also, they are resistant to bad weather. Now, they come in different shades like pink, purple, white, or in a combination of these, blue one being the rarest. There is also yellow and a combination of these. This look very beautiful if they can be grown in a garden. Now, there are rain lilies. As the name suggests, it blossoms best during the rainy seasons. They are small size plants of about a foot, and they can be grown easily in small or medium sized pots. However, the soil conditions required is slightly acidic for them to blossom. Now, they come in different colors, and due to their beauty, they are also called as fairy lilies. So you can see some of the common colors of this rain lily, like pink, red, and there are also rare blue lily and the royal orange rain lily. Finally, we'll move on to one more monsoon variety, which is periwinkle. Periwinkle grows throughout the season, throughout the year, but it grows naturally during monsoon season, and also also blossoms well. Now, we know that the periwinkle is commonly known by the 5-petal arrangement, and we see usually the rosy pink and the alba species of it. However, there are many other types of periwinkle as well, and all belongs to the genus of Vinca. Vinca means to overcome. So periwinkle is very beneficial for overcoming many diseases like diabetes. So it is named under this genus. There are different sorts like blue and gold periwinkle. So blue is the color of the periwinkle and golden is the leaf. Then there is double purple, there is cranberry color of periwinkles, Miss Jinkle, golden periwinkle, and so on. So far, we have been discussing about the different garden flowers which can be grown during the monsoon season. But why is it important? First of all, we have seen the different colors. So the refreshing colors of the garden makes our mind calm and soothing. It helps us in a way to better imagine and analyze ourselves. Sitting alone in a garden would make this happen. So these are important. Also, some of the plants some of the flowers which has pleasant smell, which can be spread all nearby, like jasmines we have seen. Then we have seen cleome as well. Flowers have been used for religious purposes. They can be also used for economic purposes if grown in a bit large scale. Like it can be made into bouquets or any startup companies with having perfumes or such cosmetics. Then there could be even bioproducts which can be formed. For example, these days lotus extracts are being used in has been added to paints to make it water resistant. So such sorts of importance is also there if we want to earn it from garden. Flowers are used for decorative purposes like marigolds. Apart from our benefits, it is also good for many other organisms like insects or birds which can feed upon the foods. And also, in a way, we are preserving a lot of species. We are making a bond between nature and us by having such beautiful lands. In monsoon, we have issues with soil erosion. So this could be reduced if the garden is full of plants. It will also maintain air quality. Often there are issues with the indoor pollution and outdoor pollution. So if we have garden flowers or garden plants, then it would reduce it. Some of the plants would also act as herb, as we have seen, the salvia species which were used. So here are some of the flower-related institutes. All the task of a bigger level or large commercial level flowering, that is floriculture, is handled by our ICAR Directorate of Floriculture. Apart from India, there are other institutes abroad like Naro Institute of Floriculture Sciences in Japan. There is Institute of Vegetables and Fruits in China. There is Penn State Hux Institute of Life Sciences. So it is a group of institutes in the American continent which works with the flower research as well. In India, we have Jawaharlal Nehru Tropical Botanic Garden and Research Institute in Tiruvananthapuram and the Fragrance and Flavor Department centers in Uttar Pradesh as well. In Canada, there is also Gosling Research Institute of Plant Preservation. So there are a lot of institutes which exclusively work with flowers. And by this, I would like to end my presentation. I hope that I could provoke you to garden more and more flowers. Wishing you a happy monsoon gardening, and thank you for your patient listening.
Thank you so much, Shwetakshi. That was very informative presentation. Now we have our second speaker, Ms. Pooja Phadke, BSc Agri graduate from Don Bosco College of Agriculture, Sulkona, presently pursuing MSc Agriculture in Agri-Economics at Mahatma Phule Krishi Vidyapeeth, Rahuri. She has been participated in various cultural activities like played for national level volleyball tournament, state level bhajan competition. Currently, she is doing kitchen garden plot planning for Nirmal Vishwas Saushasta. Now, she is going to cover on the topic irrigation methods for farms and gardens. Yes, Pooja, you can start.
Hello, good evening all. Is I audible?
Yes, yes.
Hello, sir. Yeah.
Yes, you're audible.
So, yes, sir. So, good evening all. So, today we will discuss about the irrigation method for farms and garden. Next. So, irrigation is a process through which controlled amount of water can be supplied through artificial means such as pipes, sprinklers, drip, the water can. So, irrigation is very crucial and important operation carried out in the field. It is important factor which contribute to growth and the yield of the plant. And the timely application of the water is very important for the yield of the crop. So there are many methods people adopt for irrigation depending upon the various factors such as water availability, topography, soil type, and other. So let's see the different types of irrigation methods. Next, so first is surface irrigation, the second is subsurface irrigation, sprinkler irrigation, the drip irrigation. So we will see each method in detail. Next, the first is surface irrigation. As the name suggests, in this method, the water is applied and distributed over the soil surface by gravity. This is the most important, the common method people adopt. So there are sub surface, sorry, there are this includes the flood irrigation, basin irrigation, furrow irrigation. Next, so first is the flood irrigation or flood irrigation method. In this, the water is admitted at the one corner of the field and the water is spread over entire field. So this type of method is adopted where water is plentiful and the crop does not suffer from excess water. Example, in the rice field, or sometimes also we can use this method in the orchards. The second one is the furrow irrigation. So it consists of applying the water to the furrow in between the rows of the plant to be irrigated. So this type of method is used mostly for the crops, row crops like okra, then cauliflower, sugarcane. The next is the ring basin method. In this type, the basins are formed around the tree, as shown in the picture, that, and the water is supplied through the supply channel. This type of irrigation system is mostly seen in the orchards. The next is border irrigation. The border irrigation, in this, the field is divided into strips separating by the borders ridges running down the gradient of the field. The area between the ridges is flooded during the irrigation. So all this type of the surface irrigation system have many advantages and also disadvantages. So the advantages are they are easy methods to use. The second thing is there is no highly mind skill is not required here, and it is easy for supervision. The disadvantages of these methods are the poor efficiency of water, that is, the wastage of water is more than it is used by the plant. The crop may also suffer from the due to the excess water, and the third one is weed growth is higher in this type of irrigation system. The next. Next. The next is subsurface irrigation. In this method, the water is applied beneath the soil surface through drips or the perforated pipes which are underground or beneath the soil near the root zone. So, in this, the water is moved through capillary action. So, this system is very costly and employed for the crops that provide high returns and profit. So, advantages of this system is There is no water wastage. If, then no evaporation loss. Efficiency of irrigation is high, and automation of the irrigation process. And the disadvantages of this system is it having the high initial cost, and the second one is clogging. That is, the second thing is clogging. That is, the bacterial slime or the algal growth into the pipe may interfere with the water supply. This surface irrigation is not adopted because of its high initial cost. The next, so next is our sprinkler system and the drip irrigation system. So these are most popular methods we use nowadays as they have many advantages over the traditional methods. So let's look at the first, that is sprinkler irrigation system, or we can also, it is also called as overhead irrigation system. So in this method, water is applied to the land in the form of spray. This type of system used in agricultural fields for lawns, landscapes, and also apart from that, it is also used in wetting the playgrounds. In Goa, most of the Kuragar system, people adopted this type of irrigation system to irrigate their coconut, areca nut, spice crops. But the efficiency, that is the water use efficiency of this system is less as compared to the drip irrigation system. We can also adopt this system for our vegetable crops. So let's see some advantages of this system. Next, the first is suitable for all types of soil. So this system is suitable for every soil type. And the second one is suitable for, sorry, one more thing is there about this, that is suitable for all type of soil, but it is not suitable for heavy clay soil. The next is suitable for undulating land. So for surface irrigation system, we require the level land because they works on the gravity. So in this system, we can use this system where the leveling is impracticable. The next is loss of water is minimum. Then it is easy to set up the system. The disadvantages of this system are it is not suited in the areas of high wind blow. Due to it may disturb the direction of the water flow. The next is development of diseases. So as we give irrigation in a spray form, the droplets fall on the leaves on the fruits. So sometimes this encourages the pathogen attack, which or the disease development like blight, fruit rot. So this way it helps in developing the diseases. The next is clogging of the nozzle. So when we use a poor quality of water, the mineral deposits on the pipes, nozzles. So this will cause clogging of the nozzle. The next. So let's move to the method which is most efficient one and people are getting aware of its importance and prefer to adopt it, and that is the drip irrigation system. In this method, water is delivered directly to the root zone in the right amount at the right time, so each plant gets exactly what it what it needs to grow optimally. So this is the most efficient and the best system over all the method we have discussed previously. Next. So why it is the most important and best method of irrigation? Why farmer prefer the drip irrigation? First thing is due to the huge water saving. In this method, the water fall near the root zone of the plant at required quantity. So there is no extra water is wasted or the wastage is reduced in this system and no runoff of water. And the percolation of water is occur. The next is energy saving. The system works on the low pressure. The next is weed problem is reduced. Water does not spread over the empty spaces in the field. So the weed problem is reduced. That is, uh, and if we do mulching along with the drip irrigation system, with the drip, it will also help in control the weed at good extent. The next is disease prevention. As I told earlier, for sprinkler system, due to the droplets on the leaves, on the fruits, it will help in developing the disease. In case of this, there is no chance of water to drops on the leaves, on the fruits. So there is a less chance of disease occurrence in this system. And also, the appropriate amount of water is given and there is no chance of rotting the roots due to the excess of water. The next is efficient use of fertilizer and crop protection with no leaching. So here we can also give fertilizer through drip irrigation system. So for that we call it as fertigation. There are other advantages of this system. The first thing is one can design their own custom irrigation system by installing as many emitters as they need to water as per the specific plant. You can install the timer on your drip system. The system will turn on and off automatically around certain time of the day. One more thing is that you may also install the tensiometer. This device senses the soil moisture and will not allow drip system to turn on if there is no need or it is raining outside or soil is saturated with the from previous rain. So these are some advanced technology which is combined with the drip irrigation system for its better efficiency. The next disadvantages of this system is the initial cost is high for installing the system. The second is this, like due to the what poor quality of water, the emitters are blocked due to the deposition of these minerals or the algal growth. The next, so now we have know the different types of system, and it is depend upon us what type of system we should select. So there are criteria for selecting the irrigation system. The first thing is availability of water. If we have plenty of water, we can go for surface irrigation method like flooding, then basin method, or in the areas where there is a when there is a scarcity of water, they can go for the drip irrigation system. Like next is soil type. The example is there that is the sprinkler system is not suitable for heavy clay soil. So as per the soil type also, we can choose the irrigation system. The next is land topography. If the land is level, it is good for surface irrigation methods. If the land is undulating, one can go for sprinkler system or the drip system. The weather pattern. The areas where the wind velocity is high, we should not go for the sprinkler system. So as per the weather pattern, we should choose our irrigation system. types of crop grown. So the irrigation also depend upon the type of crop. So some like a rice plant, we require the flood irrigation. In Kurakat system, we use the sprinkle system or the drip irrigation system. So as per the crop, you should go for the irrigation system. The next is water quality. If the water quality is poor, there is a risk in installing the drips and sprinkle system, and it will close the nozzle and diameters. So taking these all these points while considering the selecting the irrigation system. The next, so irrigation in our home garden. Mostly, we prefer in Goa to water our plants by pipes, water cans, uh, for small gardens at our home. Some also adopt the sprinkle system when they have a larger gardens. Recently, people use drip or micro irrigation system in the garden, as these are very efficient system, and different kits are available for small gardens, for balcony gardens, the terrace garden. There are small kits are available, so they can go for the drip irrigation system, and it is also easy to install this type of kits. Next, so this is a drip irrigation kit which is useful for the home gardens. So this includes all the pipes, then the end caps, connector, T caps, emitter, and other required equipments for the drip irrigation installation. So this type of kits are available. So you can go for the this type of kits in our balcony gardens, then terrace garden. The next. So the first picture you can see there is a bottle which is attached to the drip irrigation pipe. So the drip irrigation pipe act as a emitter, like a emitter, which will drop the water in the root zone. So this type of system also used by the people in their gardens. The second picture is of the drip irrigation pipe, which are available in the markets. So we can use that. The next is the garden, which are having the drip irrigation system. The last picture is of the drip irrigation system installed in the vegetable garden. So this drip irrigation system is nowadays become popular as it is very efficient way of giving water to the plants. At the end of the day, what is important is that we should know how to use the resources or the inputs in the minimum way to get a maximum output. The next. Thank you.
Thank you, Pooja. That was wonderful session. Now we have our third speaker of the session, Miss Lisa Pinero, completed BSc degree in the agriculture at Don Bosco College of Agriculture, Sulcona, Goa. She is founder of kitchen gardening and plant health consultancy called Fruits of Hard Work. Conducted webinars and training on kitchen gardening, composting, pest and disease management, and other agricultural activities for schools, colleges, farmers, and gardeners. She does consultations on setting up organic kitchen gardens and orchards, composting, beekeeping, planting and manuring trees, mushroom cultivation, and plant pest and disease management. And now she is going to cover on the topic organic seed treatment. Yes, Lisa, you can start.
Thank you so much, Shweta. So today I'll be talking about some seed treatment methods which are usually done by the farmers and can be also done by the home gardeners. So you might have seen some seeds which are colored. Earlier you might have never seen such type of seeds, but usually these days when you buy seed packets, you might have seen these colored types of seeds. And do you know why seeds are colored? Now, first reason is to alert you that it is treated with fungicides and insecticides. And the second reason is, as Indians, we have a habit of popping seeds in our mouth. So when it is colored, it is a sign for you that you should not pop it in your mouth because it contains poisons. Now, this is a method in which chemical fungicides and insecticides are used. I'll be telling you about some organic methods which are eco-friendly and which can be done, which are available, the materials are available easily also. Now we'll look on to those methods soon. So before that, we'll see some benefits of seed treatment. The first one is it protects germinating seeds and seedlings against soil-borne diseases and insects. We'll go to this soon. The second one is seed germination enhancement. So when you treat your seeds, it enhances germination ratio. Instead of taking too long, the seeds will germinate faster. The third reason is early and uniform establishment and growth. Sometimes when you sow seeds, you might have observed 2 or 3 or maybe 5, 6 seeds take long time for germination. It delays germination. So when you treat your seeds, the uniformity is maintained and you will see all the seeds germinating at one time. The fourth reason is it enhances nodulation in legume crop. The fifth one is seed treatment is the studies have found that seed treatment is better than soil and foliar application because you are starting the treatment when it is still small and seeding stage, not when it grows. So seed treatments have performed much better than foliar and soil application. And sixth benefit is uniform crop stand even in adverse condition. Even if there is extreme temperature or extreme rainfall, the seedling will perform better because because of seed treatment the plant growth will be good and it will boost plants immunity. So these are some 6 important benefits of seed treatment. Now before we move on to the methods, we'll see the different types of seed-borne and soil-borne diseases along with some insect pests. The first one in the picture you can see it's blast of paddy. Now it's easy to identify this disease, very common in paddy. The leaves will have white color spots surrounded by red color margins. Even the neck of the paddy panicle will start rotting and the panicle will start bending also. Also the grains inside will be unfilled and you will see empty grains. So this is the reason for empty grains is blast of paddy. The second picture is Fusarium wilt of God. This is also a fungal disease which starts from seedling stage or the seed stage, or also it is also present in the soil. Now sometimes when the creeper grow, you feel that you have added manure, you feel that you have added water. In spite of all these things, you still see the creeper is drooping. Now this is not because of lack of manure or lack of water, it is because of a fungal disease called Fusarium. So this disease is also transmitted through seed. The third one in the slide is damping off of fenugreek. This disease is common. Damping off is common in fenugreek, chili, brinjal, and tomato. Sometimes when you sow the seeds, the seedlings germinate. But after some days, you see some of the seedlings or a patch of seedlings starts collapsing. The base of the stem starts rotting, and the entire seedling starts collapsing. So this is also a fungal disease which is transmitted to seed and is also present in infected soil, which is called as damping off. And the fourth one is anthracnose of beans. So on bean pods or also on leaves, you will see some hollow or deep depression kind of spots. So this is because of a disease called anthracnose. There are various other fungal diseases which affect the plant and gets transmitted at seed stage or when the soil is infected. So to prevent this, you need to do seed treatment. Now we will look at some insect pests which attack seeds. In the first picture you can see corn borer. The kernels of the corn are eaten by the caterpillar of a of corn borer, and it destroys the corn and it is not fit for consumption, and you cannot use these seeds for sowing also. It destroys the quality, it deteriorates the quality, it destroys the entire corn. It is not fit for consumption too. The second one is bean weevil. You might have seen this type of weevil in lentils, beans, peas, grams, etc. All the legumes. You will see tiny holes in the seeds. Sometimes they are visible, sometimes they are not. So this is because of bean weevil. Then there is the next one is meal moth. In rice grains or wheat grains, you will see some web-like structures or too many seeds getting close together and tied up with some web-like structure, which is caused by meal moth. And when you sow seeds, these seeds will not germinate because the inner portion of the seed is eaten by the larva of this meal moth. And the fourth one is very common one, which you might have seen in your kitchens, is rice weevil. In Konkani, it is known as borod. It eats up the inner portion of the seed and makes it non-viable, and eats up the embryo. And these type of seeds do not germinate. And so these are some insect pests which damages the seeds and deteriorates its quality. And also sometimes when you sow these type of seeds, you get disheartened because you feel that you have made a mistake while sowing, but it's not the case. Sometimes the seeds are of poor quality because of these pests and diseases. Now we'll be seeing some organic methods of treating seeds. The first one is salt water treatment for paddy, very common one. This is done only for paddy. Now we all know that salt was traditionally used as disinfectant, and it is also used traditionally to treat paddy seeds. For this you need 1 kilo of salt and 10 liters of water. So you dilute salt in 10 liters of bucket of water. Then you start add paddy seeds and stir it continuously in a clockwise direction. So when you stir, some seeds will start floating. Those are non-viable ones. Also, if there are any debris or any dirt inside the seed, that will come out because of salt content. When you stir, wait for some time. Whatever floats, you remove it. Whatever settles down should be rinsed 3 or 4 times and then dry in shade and then go for sowing on nursery beds. Now for this 10 liter of water, you can use 30 to 40 kilos of paddy seeds. So this is one common seed treatment method used for paddy seeds. The next one is with cow urine. We all know cow urine has multi benefits and was used against fungal diseases. So for this you can use any seed. For 1 kilo of seed you need 1 part of cow urine and 5 parts of water. So in the bucket or the container you can take 100 ml of cow urine and 500 ml of water, mix it. Soak seeds for about 20 minutes, remove it and shade dry. You do not have to rinse for this treatment. Shade dry for 30 minutes and then go for sowing or raising seedlings. So this is second method which was commonly adopted by farmers earlier and can be adopted by home gardeners too. The third method is trichodema. Now trichodema is a good fungus, also called as green mold. Now this good fungus kills all bad fungi which attack seeds and fungi which infect soil. And for this you need 1 kilo seeds. You need to add a teaspoon of trichodema. 5 grams is equal to 1 teaspoon, and then sprinkle few drops of water. So when you sprinkle few drops of water, the trichodema will get coated on the seed and then shade dry for about 30 minutes and then go for sowing. Now you may need to make sure that you should not shade dry in the sun because it will kill trichodema, which is sensitive to high heat. So it's better if you do shade dry for 30 minutes in the shade. And for home gardeners, you don't want to use 1 kilo of seeds. You can take just handful of seeds and 1 or 2 pinches of trichodema with few drops of water. Just coat it thoroughly and then sow for 30 minutes and then go for sowing. The next one is Metarhizium. Now Metarhizium anisophilae is also a good fungus which will kill insect pests. Now for this also you need to have 1 kilo seeds and add 5 grams of metarhizium plus a few drops of water. Coat it nicely, dry it in shade for about 30 minutes, and so you can also go for a combination of 1 teaspoon of metarhizium and 1 teaspoon of trichoderma. Mix it in 1 kilo of seeds, because trichoderma will control diseases and metarhizium will control insect pests. So both do well together, trichoderma and metarhizium. So this is another method. Now we'll move on to the next method, which is Bij Amrut. Now, like how there is Panchgavya, Jeevamrut, Dashpadni, there's something called as Bij Amrut, which enhances germination, also protects seed from pests and diseases. Now, for 1 kilo of seeds, you will need 200 ml of water. Put it in the container. Then add 50 ml of cow urine and then 50 grams of cow dung. Some people prefer to just directly add it in cow urine and water. Otherwise, you can tie cow dung in a handkerchief, bundle it up and soak it in urine. Add 2 to 3 pinches of lime. You can either use lime from hardware stores or you can buy agricultural lime, which is called as Niru. And 2 to 3 pinches of soil. Now the soil which you are going to use should not be treated with any chemical fertilizer. It should be organic soil. Better if you remove it from where the weeds are growing. Some 2 to 3 pinches is okay. And then allow this mixture to soak for about 24 hours. When 24 hours are done, you can take 1 kilo of seeds, soak it in this solution for about 20 minutes, remove it, shade dry, and then sow it directly. So this is the benefit of this is how to make Bij Amrut, and the benefit of this is it will prevent lot of soil borne and seed borne fungal diseases. It will prevent storage grain pests as well as the environmental pests, and will also enhance germination and promote seedling growth when it is growing. So when seedlings are growing, it will enhance its growth and promote good plant growth. And the last one is seed treatment with rhizobium. Rhizobium is a good bacteria which enhance nitrogen fixing in seeds and soil. And for 1 kilo of seeds, now for this you cannot use paddy seeds, or you cannot use cucurbits like cucumbers, gourds, or any other cucurbit family seeds. For rhizobium treatment, you have to use only seeds which belong to the family of legumes, that is grams, peas, beans, and lentils. And for this you need to prepare jaggery solution. You can just warm water, add a jaggery to it and little bit of jaggery and stir it. The consistency of the solution should not be too thick. It should be pourable consistency. Jaggery solution is made just to work as an organic sticker. After preparing jaggery solution, just sprinkle it on the seeds, 1 kilo seeds, and add 5 grams of rhizobium or 5 ml of rhizobium and mix it thoroughly. Shade dry for about 30 minutes and then sow it in the soil. Now rhizobium, when it grows, it will absorb atmospheric nitrogen and convert it into available form for the plants and the growing seedling. So this is how rhizobium treatment is done. Now we'll see some precautions and tips of seed treatment. Now organic seed treatment should be done on the day of sowing. Unlike chemical seed treatments, which can be done 6 months prior, 1 month prior, 1 year prior, organic seed treatment should be done always on the day of sowing, because we are using live forms, and if it does not get aerobic condition, all the beneficial microorganisms will die. So it should be done on the day of sowing. Second is never dry seeds in sun, as it might kill beneficial microbes and sensitive seed embryo. You should never dry seeds in sun. It is recommended to always dry in shade. Third, these methods are safe and has no adverse effects on health and environment. So these are completely safe. The fourth one is alternative for jaggery solution is multi-purpose flour or maida, because sometimes jaggery solution might attract a lot of ants and ants will damage your seeds again. So for those areas where there is a lot of ant infestation, you can go for multi-purpose flour. And the fifth one is trichoderma and metarhizium works well together. So you can add both 1 teaspoon of trichoderma and 1 teaspoon of metarhizium, mix it well together and sow the seeds. Well, this was all for today. I hope you found it useful. If you have any queries, you can now type it in the chat box and turn on your microphones and ask me. If you have further more queries, if you need a garden consultation or farm consultation, you can contact me on the number given here or through Facebook or Instagram. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. That was really very informative session. Now the session is open for all for the question and answer. You can ask the questions in chat box or you can unmute your mic and ask.